right, today on the Soundiron Podcast, we have a special guest. We have Kenny Wood. He is a composer, arranger, and author from Los Angeles. He's been working in film and games since 2000, and his music has been heard in movies like Fate of the Furious, Despicable Me 3, one of my faves, Scream, Super Mario Brothers, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Rambo Last Blood, and many more. So Kenny, welcome to the pod.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
My first question for you is, how did you get on a team working for Brian Tyler?
I tell this story quite often, and it all comes back to my time at USC as part of the SMPTV film scoring program. It's now called screen scoring, but that doesn't really matter. The short takeaway is that you gotta be close and friendly with everyone you meet everywhere you go, because you never know where an opportunity is going to come from. So in this case, I was good buddies with one of the other students there while I was there, Robert Leidecker, and he and I always got along. We would share each other's projects and you know, kind of give each other encouragements as we went along. So when we got out of school, it was 2009. He got an internship for Mark Isham. And then I followed him there and spent a few weeks there interning there as well. And then fast forward a few years, he worked for Mark a little bit, and then he transitioned over to assist for Brian Tyler. So he worked for Brian for a bunch of years and got an opportunity to co-score a movie with Brian. And that movie was Triple X 3, starring Vin Diesel. He needed a team of writers. So, you know, this is where that relationship comes in. He contacted me to help him out with some of the cues on that movie, and I happily did it because you know, he's a good buddy of mine. And sure enough, the music editor on that movie liked the stuff that I was turning in, so he had me come in for the Power Rangers movie, which Brian was doing. And then after that, the Fate of the Furious, and then it just kind of kept rolling from there. And since that time, which was 2016, I've been on most of Brian's big projects, including Super Mario Brothers, which just came out earlier this year.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And you're doing a lot of arranging?
Yeah. So for those movies, Brian comes up with all the themes, and then it's up to the writing team to kind of architect them throughout the movie and get them to work. So it's a pretty cool process, because it's something I've done quite a bit, not just for Brian, but for some other composers as well. So yeah, it's an exercise. It's a muscle that I've gotten to flex a lot in the last 5 or 6 years.
Nice. How have you developed sort of trying to figure out or understand his style and sort of write in? Do you try to like listen to a lot of his music to kind of get little things that he likes to do, or just ask him certain questions on? Can you talk a little bit about that process of kind of like trying to get in his head for doing some arranging?
Well, thanks to Bob, Robert, who I mentioned earlier, he kind of gave me like a very succinct way of emulating Brian Tyler, which is basically orchestra on steroids. So if you get that right, you're well on your way. And then as you turn in things, you get feedback from Brian himself, and he'll tell you, okay, we need more of this, less of this. Let's get this thumping a bit more, and things like that. And then it starts to evolve into his sound. So in that way, it's kind of cool. And now that some years have gone by, you know, myself and the other arrangers, we're able to kind of turn in things on the first draft, and it sounds like what he's wanting it to sound like. So it's just sort of automatic at this point.
Nice. That's really cool.
So I went to your Instagram and I saw your latest post is Disney's The Naughty Nine spotted in Times Square. And there is an advertisement for Disney's Naughty Nine, which I had never heard of, but it's coming out. It looks like November 22nd. So can you talk to us about that?
Right. Oh yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. So this is the latest feature film that I got to work on as the main composer. And it's about 8 kids and a grown-up who fly to the North Pole to steal the presents from Santa Claus that they didn't get because they were on his naughty list. Okay. So it plays a lot like Ocean's 11 heist movie, but for kids, and it's family friendly, and it's got all the Disney stuff. And Alberto Belli, the director, just did a fantastic job putting this movie together. It's awesome. No matter how old you are, and no matter what your feelings on Santa Claus are, it's a fun watch. So I highly recommend it.
How did you land this gig? How did you come across this movie?
Oh yeah. Well, Alberto, who I mentioned, he and I have been like a director composer duo since 2011. So we've been working together almost 12. I guess 12 years now.
Nice.
So anything he does, I'm always eager to jump in on it. And the last movie we did was called Gatlop, which was a horror movie, a horror comedy, and that was really fun to do. So it's kind of an interesting thing that we've jumped from horror to Disney, and we've done all kinds of things in between, like commercials and short films and things like that. So I'm ecstatic that he is starting to explode now, and I hope he'll take me with him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was telling you the Gatlop score is really good. I was actually listening to it the other day when I was going for a drive doing a food run, and yeah, like I even noticed like you had like some kind of like dubstep elements in it. Like it's cool. Like it has like sort of like a very quirky orchestral, with the little bits of horror elements and stuff. But like you do kind of like bring in little elements that you wouldn't really expect, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, Alberto is like, he's the type of storyteller where you really got to turn on a dime at any moment, and we'll go from super heightened emotions to like fun and everything in between at a snap of a finger. So that's one reason we get along so well creatively, is that I'm able to, like, with the type of music that I do, I'm able to make those changes pretty quickly and hopefully convincingly. So you all can be the judge when you see Naughty Nine in a couple weeks.
Have you seen the Spider-Verse movies?
I've seen the first one, and yeah, that is amazing. And there's definitely a hint of that, like maybe not directly, but we're both, Alberto and I, are inspired by that kind of filmmaking and storytelling where it just goes hard all the time, and the movies are just edge of your seat the entire way through. There's no.
Yeah. I just really like the genre twisting of it, where you don't stay in one lane the whole movie. You're not like, okay, we're gonna write a horror movie and it's gonna be this stereotypical horror movie. You can kind of twist and jump into different genres.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And if that's the kind of movie making you like, you'll love everything that Alberto does.
So how did you approach the Naughty Nine score, as far as like consciously trying to not make it too sort of Christmassy, or like you were saying, it has a lot of that kind of like they're going in trying to get their presents back? Were you trying to incorporate sort of more like Mission Impossible sort of elements, sort of things like that, or?
All of the above, really. So the first, I would say, half of the film, we're really establishing our main character, Andy, as this kind of mastermind, and he plans things, and there's a cool planning montage. So all of that is very much in the realm of Mission Impossible, Ocean's 11, James Bond kind of stuff. And then the story kind of evolves. It shifts into this very heartwarming family, kind of like bring it together, do the right thing, kind of Disney vibe. And that was kind of the challenge of this movie, where how do we get from this spy craft kind of thing into this heartwarming, like Home Alone is a title that comes to mind when I'm describing this. And then everywhere in between, we have stuff that sounds like Back to the Future or Jurassic Park, or just big time orchestral music that will take you back to like the golden era in the 90s.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kinds of movies, and those are the movies that Alberto and I grew up on. So that's kind of what cemented our bond, is that we had the same kind of cinematic upbringing.
Yeah, well, that's cool, because you get to kind of harken back to the things that you remember musically as a child, and kind of be able to bring in these big sweeping themes and stuff like that. So that's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
How did you guys meet?
Oh, at USC. Yeah, he was a film student, and I was a student there as well. We didn't actually work together until after we both graduated, but it was cool. Like the first movie we did was a short film called The Case of the Missing Garden Gnome. And that was another, it was like a film noir mystery, like whodunit caper kind of thing. And that was a lot of fun. So we really like to dive back into those classic genres where music played such an important role. And that's another reason I just love working with him, is because he takes music so seriously. It's one of his favorite parts of the process. So, if you find a director like that, it's a dream come true.
Could you tell us about a typical day in the life? You can talk about when you were scoring the Naughty Nine, like your schedule during that point, or if you want to talk arranging, like a typical day arranging on a team.
Yeah, for sure. My typical day, since I have a daughter and a family here, is mostly taking care of them. And then when I get those few precious hours to work, I'll just dive right in, fire up the session. Usually my computers are just on 24/7 because that's the life of a dad, where, you don't really know when you're going to get started, but when you do, you need to just hit the ground running. So, everything's ready to go. I'll just fire it up. In the case of arranging, like for Brian or somebody, I'll listen to his sketches to get an idea of what he's looking for. Another cool part about working with Brian is that he'll talk through his sketches as well. He'll give like little hints on like, here's a musical idea, and this could be in the strings, or this could be in the low basses or something like that, and make it rumble. And so we get inspiration from those things and turn our sounds into exactly what he's looking for. And kind of iterating, we put the ideas down, just play it over and over and over, comb it and groom it into something, and then we'll send it in, get some feedback, and just restart until we get something that everyone's happy with.
With these sketches, are they usually piano sketches, or are they kind of like lightly mocked up with virtual instruments? Or
it could be any of the above. So it could be as thin as just him doodling a melody on the piano and then telling us some stuff, or it could be a fully realized, fully mocked up, like fully produced with everything, all the bells and whistles. And those are nice because we get a chance to hear what the real sound is going to be like. But anything in between is fine too. Like we're so accustomed to working this way, so we can really fill in the blanks with our experience and get something that he and the client is happy with.
Cool.
Did having a child change the way you write music?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It made me a lot faster and more efficient in those precious hours. And when you're away from the desk and you're sort of, thinking about, okay, how am I going to maximize that desk time? You start to think about things more and go through the mental process, when you're just away from it all. And it's not to say that like, that's what I'm thinking of versus, spending quality time with my child, because I certainly get plenty of that. And my daughter's great. She's on her way to becoming a performer of some kind because she just loves the spotlight. So, but yeah, when I return to the desk, like I'm typically just full to the brim with ideas that I want to try. So it makes it a lot more efficient that I'm not just sitting there fishing for stuff. I've got things ready to put in there, and the course of the day kind of allows me to prioritize what things I want to try first. So it's a nice efficient process, and that's something that I didn't have before. I used to have all the time in the world, and would be spent just kind of sitting there twiddling my thumbs as I think of what to try next. But it's completely different now. So, and I don't think I would go back. I think I like it this way.
Kind of puts you in crunch mode a little bit.
Yeah, all the time.
Are you from a musical family? Like, what was the role of music in the early years of your life?
Yeah, I would say so. So my dad he studied music in college, and he was a classical guitarist and
nice.
drummer and a percussionist, and played in all kinds of groups and stuff. But when it was time for him to start his family, like he had to take on a more traditional job, in the industrial sector. But the cool part was, he played and practiced all the time at home. So, I grew up with the sounds of the guitar getting plucked all the time. And my mom was also a vocal performance major in college too. And then likewise, she had to turn things to a more traditional career focus. So she went into education and administration and stuff like that. So the foundation was there, And it certainly gave me, all the tools and motivation I needed to get my career going. And it's probably the greatest part, a testament to all things American dream, if you want to put it that way, is now that I'm doing music, I've actually turned that into my career, and I can help pay the bills over here with just doing music stuff.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what instruments did you play when you were first kind of getting into learning music? Did you go with the guitar, or did you go with the piano, or?
Right. Actually, guitar was one of the last things I picked up, but I would plunk on the piano every now and then. So like basic melodies I could play and stuff like that. But trumpet was the first one where, I actually sat in on a band class and learned it the traditional way. And then my piano playing got more sophisticated in middle school. And then from there, I taught myself drums and guitar and things like that. So I've got kind of an intermediate working knowledge of all those things, but I would probably say I'm a trumpet player first and foremost.
Oh, okay. Did you learn like in school, like middle school, or?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
And I studied trumpet in college, so that was like, a serious instrument for me.
Oh, that's when you were really taking it to the next level.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool learning it in middle school, especially because it's like you're already there. Like when I was first trying to learn guitar, I didn't even know how to play, and I joined the school band, and I was just in there with a guitar, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So that's always a good way to, if you don't like being in other types of classes in school, just join music class.
For sure. And another thing about that is music teachers are like a different breed altogether. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky to have two great music teachers, one in middle school and one in high school, Mr. Maycumber and Mr. Crawford, respectively. And they were just amazing. Like, no matter where the skill level was on any student, they're just always encouraging. They never give up on anyone, and they'll get them there. That's probably the coolest part, is you could come in with any level of knowledge or experience, and by the end of that school year, you're going to be playing something, and you're going to be, sitting in with the rest of the group, holding your own, and it's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. Just a testament to how great they were.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm interested in Super Mario Brothers, the like movie, because that has been a smash hit. And I think there's going to be more Nintendo movies coming, if I had to guess. So yeah, sure. Could you tell us about the process, like arranging for that?
Yeah, that was like a bucket list item, like dream come true, without a doubt. Even if I'm just, contributing a small part as one of the arrangers, it was like a thrill from beginning to end. So I was also lucky enough to arrange some of the really cool scenes in the movie too, like the Mushroom Kingdom, where Toad's guiding Mario through his first pass through all the little toads and stuff.
Nice.
That was a heck of a fun one to do. And yeah, it was like one of those things where, growing up as a kid of the late 80s and early 90s, where Super Mario was just kind of part of my life, part of my DNA almost. It felt really natural to kind of just mix my two passions of video games and movie music and put them together. And Brian gave us some really great themes to work with. So, it all just kind of came together like a perfect storm. Illumination, who distributed the movie, and Nintendo themselves, they had a little bit of input on, what they were kind of looking for. But, Brian and our team, we were just ready to go. Like we already had the right mindset and all the right tools and everything. So as the cues started to get done and get turned in, like everyone was just having a great time. And there were like little details that we had to polish and things like that, but the overall structure of the whole thing like almost didn't change from beginning to end. It was pretty solid how we envisioned it from the get-go.
When you're working on a project like that, are you also working on other things, or is this like your main thing for a couple months?
I think you'll get a different answer from everyone, but I personally, I like to focus on what's in front of me right then and there. So at that time, the Super Mario was kind of front and center of everything, and we were on break from the other show that I've done a lot of work on, which is Magnum PI. at that time. So it was kind of lucky that it turned out that way, because Magnum's a great show too, even though, it's not going to come back for another season after this one ends. But yeah, it was just really fortunate that I could focus 100% on it, because that movie is definitely one you don't want to be diverting your attention from.
Yeah.
It needs the love, it needs the care, it needs everything.
Did you guys have any, I guess not issues, but like when it comes to taking all these classic iconic themes and like putting them together? Because I think you guys did a great job as far as like just introducing or just bringing in all these old themes together and making them work. Like, was there anything kind of tricky trying to get some of those to work, or like did you do anything with like kind of modifying keys or anything like that? Or
Right. Anything's tricky, I think, when you're trying to get something that worked so well for a particular genre, and then now you're trying to stuff it into this, cinematic sequence. It has to work as a movie, not just as a good piece of music on its own. So that's always tricky to do. But, the cool part about working with the Mario music is we have 40 years of it. Like, there's just endless material we can pull from. So as long as you've played some of the games, like, I haven't played every single Mario game there is. There's like 300 of them or something like that. But, as long as you've done the major ones, the big pillars, there is so much good stuff at every kind of emotion, every kind of pacing, every kind of density and weight level that you can pull from. So there's always something we could do for a particular thing. Now, the really, really tricky part is if we put something in a particular sequence and then the producers and Nintendo and everything say, that's not working for us. We need to use this theme. So then you're thinking like, oh, okay, well, I was thinking about this theme, but I don't think it could work in here. But let me try. So, that's where some of the grinding hours are spent doing it. But luckily, we were able to make it all work. The one scene in particular, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the part where the princess is battling Bowser on top of the floating ship, that scene needed a lot of finessing and massaging in the way I just spoke about. So we did have some challenges there, but overall it's still all worked out, and everyone seemed to be happy, and yeah, that was that.
Yeah, it's a really fun score to listen to. Like, even just like I have a tendency to just listen to scores before I even see the movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it was going to be coming out on Peacock. I was like, all right, I'm going to watch it, but I want to hear the music, because I've been following Brian Tyler's stuff for a long time, and yeah, like you guys all did a great job on that.
Thank you. Yeah, he's a fun one to follow, and he's certainly not done yet. There's lots of fun stuff waiting.
Yeah, I need to find out what vitamins that dude's taking, because that dude has energy.
Do you prefer the schedule of a TV show or a movie?
Oh, I would always say movie, at least in the context that movies take a little longer, and you have a good chunk of time typically to work on them. Not always. And then animation, especially, because you have an even longer window.
Yeah.
So in the case of the Super Mario Brothers movie, we had 9 months to work on that score. Like, that's a huge amount of time. That's like the time that John Williams gets to do a movie, because they let him take as long as he wants, basically, right? Mm-hmm. But on a TV show, which are great, by the way, like there are times where I would just love to just have the routine nature of a TV show, and the kind of assurance that, okay, there's going to be another episode coming up, so I'm not going to be looking for a gig, and then and so on and so forth. That's always great. But with TV, you're very much limited on time. It's probably a week on average to turn in all the music for an episode. So in the case of Magnum PI, it's up to the team to pump out about 36 minutes of music every week. So that puts a lot of pressure on not just me as one of the arrangers, but Keith Power, who's the main composer on that, plus all the other arrangers on that as well. It's intense, but it's cool, because it all seems to just magically come together at the end, and that has a lot to do with music editing too. So those are a really great part of the team too.
What's your process at the very beginning of a project? Like, when you first get some rough sketch of a movie, or you just get like a script. What do you do right at the beginning?
Right. I always prefer, if I can, to see some footage. Like I want to see what the tone is like, what the movement is like, how fast things are going, what if anything has been edited. I like to see the pace of the edits, and that really inspires me a lot, especially in tempo and timing, and not only that, but character and weight and lightness and darkness and things like that. It's the most clear indicator of how the story is going to be told and how the music's going to support that. But a lot of filmmakers like to send scripts because they like to get as much of that kind of team building done before any of the actual production work is done. So I'll read scripts here and there, but I think I'm the worst at interpreting tone and pace from just reading. I want to see someone's vision of it, because that's what inspires me the most.
Yeah, totally. Do you generally work in Pro Tools? I know Brian Tyler tends to work in Pro Tools. Like when you're doing different projects, do you tend to switch DAWs, or do you primarily work in Pro Tools?
Right. So yes, I work in Pro Tools, but I was way back in college, I was a DP guy. And then when I graduated college, I was a Logic guy for a bunch of years. And then I dabbled in Cubase a little bit. So I've been through most of the major ones. Having assisted a couple of composers who were Logic users, and making that transition every movie from, we finished writing everything, we print it all out to audio, and then we got to stuff it into Pro Tools. And there's just, a whole long list of challenges that come with that. I just decided then and there, you know what, I'm going to make it easy on myself and just be a Pro Tools person. And there was a good transition period of a couple years where I was, learning it as not just an audio editor, but as a MIDI studio. So, there's a learning curve there, but I thanks to the help of technology like Keyboard Maestro and things like that, I was able to program things that could make it function as if it were Logic, and kind of close the gap there. So Pro Tools, and yeah, Brian's in Pro Tools, so that's always nice to be able to kind of just transfer sessions over to him easily, and he can open it right up and get to work.
Yeah. Do you guys all have similar templates to where you can just kind of bounce projects back and forth, or how do you normally go about that? Because I'm always curious about like how that works.
Right. For him and me, not at all. Like our templates are completely different. But one thing I put in my template is the ability to transform it into something that'll fit right into his template. So like I've got my tracks ordered up in a certain way. And like, for example, one of the things he likes to do is he likes to have an audio track, and then just under that audio track is the MIDI that led into that audio track. So I've got mine all ordered up like that. And then I just clear away the tracks that he doesn't need and then send it to him. And then it'll be one of his assistants probably that will open it up and just dump the tracks into his session. And then he can get going, wheels on the ground.
Oh, okay.
So you created the Teammates Facebook group and Discord group. Could you tell us the origins of that?
Yeah. So if you don't know, Teammates is the community for up-and-coming composers and assistants. And originally it was conceived as like a way to create a safe space for assistants to, get to know one another, build community, hash out through like challenges and struggles that assistants often face. But we've been growing. So, we're up over 3,400 members now, and we've turned into kind of like this sort of career melting pot, or career nursery, if you want to call it that. So if you're just starting out as a composer and you want to be in a place where you can ask any question you want and not feel embarrassed about it, like Teammates is the place to do it. Hopefully we can provide some links and get people on board who are just watching this.
Definitely.
But anyway, the origin. So I've got a good friend, Nadia, who I worked with when I was assisting for Hecho Pereira back in the day. And, she's someone who's very vocal about the assistant experience and everything. So at one point she put on her blog the struggles that she endured as an assistant. And, they had everything from, just verbal abuse to paying wages that were less than livable, especially in the Los Angeles area. And it got a lot of people talking. She shared it on social media, and conversations started to begin. So then I chimed in and said, you know what, maybe we should put together a list of guidelines for composers and their assistants, and this could set some kind of a baseline for people who are getting ready to hire and things like that. And then it was kind of thrust upon me to make this official, and through the suggestion of one of the big Hollywood composer agents, I was going to put this thing together. So rather than just make a simple list, I actually just went hard at it and made a whole book, and got some friends to help me contribute some paragraphs to it as well. And we created this thing called the Assisting the Composer Guidebook. And it was, the first of its kind, like talked about things that you don't learn in school, talked about things that, the truth of what happens at composer studios, what to get ready for, the egos, the untolds, the unexpected, the hours, every challenge you could dream of working for an assistant, it's in there. And it really opened the eyes of a lot of people. And a couple months after that book came out, we decided to make it a community. So we started a Facebook group and just slowly gathered people who are interested. And now it's, we have a Discord server as well. And it's just turned into this whole thriving community. And I can't say enough of how proud of it I am, and all the people involved, and the admin team who works with me as well. And it's just awesome. So through that, we just had our first in-person event last month, and that was awesome as well. Like we had a good turnout. Like I think at least 180 people showed up. And we had sponsors including Soundiron, so we're real proud to have been able to put that together, and we thank you guys for your support.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it was a really awesome event, and that's where I got to meet you for the first time in person, and all the other people who spoke at the panel. And Catherine Dern was there. I got to meet her in person for the first time. And it was really cool. And it's just, I think it's really awesome what you guys are doing as far as, with the community and making everyone feel more comfortable trying to kind of get into this line of work. And I think it's only going to get bigger and bigger as you guys keep going.
Yeah, thank you. It's awesome. That's just the one word I can use to describe it. And yeah, the big thing, as I've said before, it's a safe place. You can go there and fall on your face, and no one's going to point at you. Everyone's going to help you up and get you to the next thing.
Yeah, especially these days, because I could see, especially in some Facebook groups, which I'm not going to name, you get someone who you can tell they're pretty new, or maybe they have a new interest in wanting to pursue this type of career. And, there's a lot of people kind of ready with their comment guns, just ready to shoot you down sort of thing. And so I think that's awesome because, a lot of times people do want to just ask questions, and especially these days, I could see why most people wouldn't want to, because there's a lot of people that just want to, make someone feel bad or they're dumb or something. But it's nice. It's nice to know that there's an avenue on the internet for composers where you can feel that way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Thank you.
So what advice would you give to a young composer, or a composer just out of school who's trying to get their feet wet, get some experience, and set themselves apart from the competition? Because there is a lot of new grads, and they are all kind of going for the same thing. So you see someone posts a Craigslist ad that says wanted free, someone to score my short film for free, and he has 100 people reach out. So in a situation like that, what advice do you have?
Yeah. All right. So you do see those all the time. And quite frankly, if you have no experience, you're going to need to get it somehow. So, there's things to be gained, even if there's 100 people applying for something like that. So the first thing you work on is what to put in your message to stand out from the rest and book that gig, even if it's for free. You got to do something, right? Something a little different. One word I've been coming back to a lot is connection. You got to find a way to connect with that person, because if you don't, then how can you expect them to have faith in your ability to get the job done, right?
Yeah.
So you got to say something personal. You got to do a little homework, try and find out something about that filmmaker. Hopefully they put something where you can figure out who they are and what they've done, and go watch their their other movies. Go learn about, where they came from and what brought them to making movies or video games or whatever it is, so that you have a chance to make that connection when you reach out the first time. And then if you do end up booking that job, then it's up to you to do the best you can, bring your unique voice, and do things wrong a little bit. Maybe like we talk all the time about like, okay, this is how you do MIDI, this is how you export things for your orchestrator, and there's a right way to do it, and so on and so forth. But what sets these brilliant composers apart, like Brian or Hans Zimmer or whoever else you want to talk about, is the fact that they did it their own way. Like they did it without someone teaching them how to do it, and they figured out a way to do it. And by doing it that way, they created their own personality, their own fingerprints, and their own very distinct identity. And so I encourage people to do that. Go find what it is that makes sense to you. And then if you're a more risk averse person, kind of like me, then you do homework. You listen to your favorite composers, you listen to your least favorite composers, and you just gather all the information you can. You make a mental list of what works for you and what parts you don't like, and you take that and you leave that out, and that will become a voice for you too. So there's lots of ways to become unique and everything, but you got to follow through it. And the last little bit of advice is something I heard this very successful YouTuber tell me, which was success trends toward action. And as long as you're doing something, you're actively out there making mistakes and learning as you go, success will find you. You just gotta keep hacking and just keep swinging.
I like that.
Yeah.
I liked your sizzle reel. I watched that. I don't know how old that is, but it showed a lot of projects you've worked on, and I assume that's your original music behind it. How important would you say a reel is in attracting new clients?
It's important, and yeah, my sizzle reel is in need of an update, but I'm very appreciative that you enjoyed that one. That's from 2018, I think.
Okay.
And I'm still proud of it. I leave it up there because it speaks to who I am and some of the stuff I've done. So thank you there. But yeah, reels are important. They're important in different levels or different respects depending on what you're trying to get. Like if it's the only thing that someone can see of yours to look at, what you've done, then yeah, it's going to play a really important role. So you want to make it as good as possible. Something I try to do whenever I'm making a reel is tell a story or just make it entertaining in some way. Like I'll go back to that word connection again. Like you have to be able to reach out to your viewer and make them feel something. That's how you connect through a reel. You got to conjure up a feeling. It's not just a technical demo. Like if you're an architect, you show a picture of a building you've designed or a picture of a building that got built or something like that, and that's cool and all. But like, does that reach out to the client and grab them by their heartstrings? Probably not. So, as a composer, as someone who's doing an emotional art form, that should be your goal, to make an emotional connection with that reel. And that could be done through editing. That could be done through just having great music on there. Going back to the reel that you're talking about earlier, what it is, if you haven't seen it, is it's a montage of a bunch of clips I've done from all the movies that I've scored. And it's just one piece of music all the way through, kind of an emotionally charged piece of music. And then the clips I chose from those movies are, the first third of it are things where people are taking steps. So it's like stepping stones or progress towards a goal of some kind. And then the middle chunk of it is like action and things that are exciting and things are happening. And then the last third are things like hugs and people connecting and having that emotional experience with one another. So that's all deliberate. They're not just randomly chosen things. So that's a way to do it. Another thing I recommend to everyone is make a video personality of yourself in some form. That could be through a YouTube channel or a podcast or a TikTok account or something like that. people should be able to see you and see how you talk and see your cadence and your rhythm, because that's going to give them the best indicator of what it's like to work with you. And I'm actually starting a YouTube channel myself. I've got one in the works that's being edited right now. So that's gonna soon will begin my endeavor.
Cool.
In my video personality. So I'm very excited about that. But yeah, it's all part of connection. You have to make people familiar with you before they even walk in the same room with you, so that there's a level of comfort and confidence in what you can do.
Nice. Just curious, what types of content are you planning for the channel?
It's gonna be walkthroughs of my work and how I've done it. And the first video I'm planning to do is a bit of the Super Mario Brothers movie and how we arranged one of the scenes on it.
Nice. Very cool.
I do have to clear some channels on that first. But from the looks of it, everything should be all good to go.
That's cool. Yeah, I'll definitely be subscribing to your channel.
Yeah, same. All right. I have 3 rapid fire questions for you. The first one is best recent purchase under $100. This can be software, this can be hardware, this can be like a nice meal, this can be anything under $100 that you have purchased recently that you've been enjoying.
Sorry, it's not going to be rapid fire, but a little bit about me. I'm kind of like Anne Catherine Dern in the terms of like, I try not to buy things and spend lots of money. Like the rig you see behind me has been the same rig for the last like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say those speakers are not under $100. I know that for sure.
And yeah, it took quite a bit of saving to get a lot of it. I'm always happy to share like my favorite food places, and one of the ones I did recently was Howlin' Ray's, which is a Nashville hot chicken joint in Pasadena, and they have one in Chinatown as well. And yeah, it's to die for. Like best chicken I think I've ever had. And if you like spicy, it's like going to be right up your alley.
I like spicy, but I don't eat chicken. So Nathan, you come out this way, you got to go there.
I've experienced it. It is quite epic.
It might make you a believer, Craig.
All right. My next question is recent TV show, podcast, or video game or film, something you've been enjoying recently that you can recommend.
Well, I know Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out earlier this year. I managed to pick at that for a few hours a day while the kids asleep, and I'm coming up with ideas for work and stuff. So that was an awesome game, and for sure recommend it. And I've also been kind of going back in time now. I'm currently playing Zelda: Link to the Past on SNES, and
nice.
And that's the classic.
Yeah, I've been wanting to get back into that one again. I was telling my girlfriend about that. I was like, man, I want to, because I got one of those SNES consoles that have like 30 games on them.
Oh, dope.
I was on one of them. Yeah, been meaning to get back on that. It's cool.
All right, and my last question for you is, what's next for Kenny?
Aha. Okay. So we have the Naughty Nine coming out on November 22nd on Disney Channel, and then November 23rd and onward on Disney Plus. And then from there, we've got a few projects for Brian lined up, but I can't say what they are yet. And then after that, it's kind of like the Wild West. Now that the writers and actors strikes are over, all of us composers are trying to see what's coming up next. And there's likely to be a lot of stuff because there's been a hold on everything. So now that now that the bottleneck is open, there's going to be a flood of content, and we're all very excited about it.
Everyone's going to be too busy.
You're right.
Which ain't a bad thing.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Soundiron Podcast, and we will link to all of your socials and recommend people watch the Naughty Nine. All right. It's so awesome to be here. Thank you guys so much. And yeah. Soundiron's great, and we're happy to have you guys as a sponsor for Teammates, and we'll be hitting you up again. Yeah. We love supporting the community, man. So we appreciate it. Thank you for coming on.